Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for tuning in and joining us for another episode of the Wilmac Wire. I'm going to get right into who our guest is today, and that is Monroe County Executive Adam Bello. If you didn't know, Adam Bello stepped into the county executive role in 2020, which is a year, if you're like myself, you block it out of your memory. So Adam, in 2020, he stepped into the role of Monroe County Executive and a global pandemic. COVID testing, mass vaccination sites, keeping schools open, and supporting local businesses that were hanging on by a thread were some of his core focuses, his core priorities, when he stepped into the role in 2020. Now in 2026, he's laser focused on a few core areas that we discuss, 4 core pillars, as he liked to call them. And one of them was public safety, which, as many of you know, as many of our listeners know, public safety is a core component of Wilmac. We work with a ton of 911 centers across North America. And we've been having some really healthy, great conversations with the Monroe County 911 Center team, which made this conversation very timely. In today's episode, you can expect to hear more about that conversation on public safety in terms of what Monroe County's priorities are when it comes to public safety, along with how technology and AI is playing a role in that field. We also discuss the workforce challenges that many telecommunicators face within 911 centers. Beyond that, though, you can expect to hear Adam talk about his career journey and what drew him into public service, along with the economic development potential within Rochester, how easy it is now for people to start a business with AI and how we're trying to encourage that more in our region. And last but certainly not least, Adam touches on some of the biggest opportunities that he sees in the future for Monroe County. As a business, Wilmac is very grateful to operate within Monroe County and to be able to speak to leadership like Adam Bello very openly and honestly, be able to air it so you can also hear it. So I want to thank the Monroe County team for being very responsive in the coordination of this episode. They've been great to work with, along with a big thank you to Adam Bello for taking time out of his very busy schedule to join us in person in studio for this recording. I'm really excited for you, our listener, to listen to this episode. So thanks for tuning in and hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Wilmac Wire. I'm Emily Miller, joined by my co-host, Steve McDonnell. On this show, we talk with the drivers, the leaders, innovators, and decision makers pushing customer interaction technology and AI forward. And because we're proud to call Western New York home, we also spotlight the drivers in our own community, the people and organizations shaping growth and innovation right here. Let's get into it.
All right, welcome to the Wilmac Wire. I'm excited to introduce our guest today. Joining us from right here in Monroe County, a lifelong Rochester area resident from Irondequoit, husband, dad of 2, and longtime public servant. He entered the public office at just 32 years old as Irondequoit Town Supervisor, later served as Monroe County Clerk, known for being hands-on and community-focused. He was elected Monroe County Executive in 2019 and stepped into leadership at one of the most pivotal moments in recent history. He's led the county through major challenges while focusing on public safety, public health, economic development, and infrastructure. Welcome to the Wilmac Wire County Executive, Adam Bello.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you today.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here in studio, Rockbox Studios in Pittsford. All reliable of having our guests in person. So thanks for joining us.
I'm excited to talk to you today. Yeah, this will be a lot of fun.
Great. We'll get things started and keep it lighthearted by doing a little icebreaker that we like to call this or that. So I have 3 questions for you. I'm going to pose 2 different things to you, and you can tell us which one you choose and why.
Okay.
All right.
Easy enough.
So we'll start things off with Rochester in the fall or Rochester in the summer.
Oh, Rochester, summer versus fall. You know what? I'm going to go with fall. It's my favorite season. Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you why though, because the fall, just like the summer always gives you what it promises, right? It's hot, but in the fall you can still do almost everything you can do in the summer. You can still, on a warm day, you can probably still hit the pool if it's still September. But you can also add in apple picking, pumpkin picking, and all like the Halloween stuff. So I think that's the best season.
Fall has been a popular pick.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. It is a good season up in Rochester.
Yeah, because
I put spring in there a few times, and everyone's always like, spring lasts 2 weeks here, so it just doesn't hit as hard.
Spring is always the worst because you never know what you're going to get. It could be freezing cold or it could be warm, and then it gives you that little taste of summer and kind of wets your beak a little bit, and then it disappoints you with snow.
Well, I mean, even this past weekend, I could finally see my grass, and then woke up this morning.
Nope, it's all gone.
It was gone.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful. Okay, next one, a little bit more work related, but door to door or a town hall.
Oh, I love going door to door.
Yeah?
I love it. Yeah. I'm probably one of the few politicians that actually loves going out there and knocking on doors. I love it. There's something about those conversations one-on-one where you can basically ask somebody, what do they care about? You get a much more honest and frank conversation than you would in a crowd.
Right.
And you can spend as little or as much time with somebody as they want. Because when you're in a big crowd, you might only get maybe 30 seconds with somebody to talk to them. When you're at someone's front door, you can't just walk away from them if you don't like the conversation. So you're there. So, and so you get that full conversation. You get that honesty because you're not being recorded usually or anything like that, unless you're on a Ring doorbell. I've had that happen before where someone's taking shots of me on their front step and put it on like Facebook or something from their Ring doorbell. But I love it. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
How many, so if you're going to do a door to door afternoon, how many hours do you go? Because it's got to be tiresome too.
It is.
Not only physically, but you're having pretty intimate conversations.
Oh, absolutely. It can be exhausting and also exhilarating a little bit, right? You could, if you're in this business, you feed off of that, right? Those conversations too. But it's exhausting. But usually a couple hours on a Saturday afternoon, if you're really in the zone, you could go for 3 or 4 hours. Doing it, but I also have to balance that with my home life and my family. So there's always can you stop at the store on the way home, that kind of thing when you're done knocking doors. But a couple hours. Yeah.
Okay.
Love it. All right, last one: Wegmans sub or garbage plate?
Oh, absolutely a garbage plate. Yeah,
okay,
I love Wegmans, but no, garbage plate all day long.
Gotta be garbage plate.
Any particular garbage plate recommendations? Place wise?
No, I mean there's obviously Nick Tahoe's is obviously the classic, so I can't get away without saying that. But you know what? We go down to Bill Gray's up at Seabreeze. And we're there a lot. We live in Irondequoit, so we hang out there a lot in the summer and the fall.
Yeah, in the fall. Good spot in the fall. All right. Well, thanks, Adam. That's our this or that icebreaker.
Nick Tahoe's right across from the 911 center.
I know. Right. It is.
Yep.
It is. All right. Okay, Adam, we're going to just start with talking a little bit about your career journey. So can you kick it off by telling us a little bit more about how you ended up in public service and maybe why you didn't choose that private sector path?
Sure. Yeah. When I was growing up, my parents were always a little bit involved in politics. My dad was the leader of the Democratic Party in the town of Irondequoit for a long time, and I was always just surrounded by it. And I really liked politics, and it changed to government in a little bit, and I'll tell you why. But it was always that. And even in high school, like I'd be watching CNN. You can watch Crossfire, remember that old show, and watching elections come in and stuff. So I got my first sort of taste of working in it when I was in college. When I was a senior, I had a chance to intern for Louise Slaughter, who was our Congress member from Rochester. I interned for her down in Washington in the fall of 2001. And it was an interesting internship because I went there because I love politics. So I wanted to see all these politicians who I thought were celebrities and things like that. But I had a different type of internship because when I was down there, that's when 9/11 happened. So we were evacuated from the Capitol and all of that. And so I had a much different experience than most interns would have. But I think it was the day after 9/11, I went back into work and everyone's like, why are you here? Because it was all a little bit chaotic. And Louise was asked if they could loan me out to go spend a couple hours answering phones in a guy named Jerry Nadler's office. He was a congressman who covered the World Trade Centers in New York. And so for a few hours that day, my job was to answer calls in his office where people were literally calling because their family member didn't come home the day before or a couple days before. And so I would connect people to the reunification center or wherever they were set up down there. And so I was talking to people who I knew, just as they probably did, right? That their loved one might not be coming home. And it gave me a completely different view of what this all was about. Politics is a vehicle to get elected, right? It's what you have to do to become an elected official and these jobs. But what these jobs are once you get them are very, very different. Yeah. It's all about serving people. It's helping people. It's helping people in crisis. And I really liked that. And it really did change the way I think my career trajectory went, because I thought I would just be doing campaigns, getting involved in politics, which I did do for a little bit, even after that. But I was much more drawn to the government experience and what it really is to run a government and to really help people, which is what it's about.
Did you jump right into it? You didn't really get elected. You weren't an elected official until 32.
No.
So what were you doing between college?
So when I left after my internship and I graduated college, I went to work for Joe Morelli, who was our state assembly member at the time, and he was my assemblyman in Irondequoit. So I did constituent services for him, which was basically the same thing: answering the phone, talking to people with issues with departments. After that, I did go into politics for a little bit to run some campaigns with the Democratic Party. Again,
all local.
Didn't really love that. Yep. All local. It was good. I liked it, but didn't love it as a career path. I really wanted to get back into government. So I actually had a chance to work on a district attorney campaign, Sandra Dorley, helping to run her first campaign. And then I worked for her when she won in the district attorney's office, did that for a couple of years. And then this opportunity to run for town supervisor opened up in Irondequoit. The Democratic Party was looking for a candidate. I thought I had some things to bring to the table. I was just starting my family in Irondequoit. My wife is from Irondequoit. And so I just wanted my kids to have the same opportunity that other kids had in other towns. Because all these towns were building, in my view, back then was, you kept seeing ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings on new baseball fields, town libraries, community centers, all these things. I just felt like my town was stuck. Why can't we have these nice things too? And I thought I had something to bring to the table. We had Irondequoit Mall that was causing a lot of trouble for the town as well. Nothing was really happening there. So I ran and I won a race that I think, a lot of people counted me out a little bit. That was a tougher town for us to be running in. I was brand new. I was only 32 years old, 33 years old maybe. And so we were successful. And that's where I got my start being an elected official and just sort of went along the path.
How intense of a process it, not only winning, but you got to convince the Democratic Party that you're the candidate.
You do. And there was another Democrat who was interested in running. The year I ran I came in after I was said I wanted to run. It's a lot. When you run for local office, when you asked earlier about door-to-door or town hall meetings, it's all door-to-door. It's even in a town that size, 50,000 people. It's still, you can cover most of the town. You can't get to everybody, but you can cover more than half of it if you really put your mind to it. But I was doing probably 3 to 4 days a week, 2 to 3 hours at a time, just knocking on doors, you have to raise money. So you have to call people, you send out mailings, you do all that. It takes over your life though. It really does. But I have a really funny story because my son got really into it. He was 4 at the time. I think my kids were 2 and 4. So my son was 4 years old and he used to call it the town supervisor game. So I'd come home with a clipboard because, you have clipboard, the list of voters, and you have your little key card that you hand out. And so we were trying to engage him in what you're doing. And so he created a game out of it where I'd give him my clipboard, I'd sit on the couch and he'd come in and he'd say, "Hi, what's your name?" And I'd say, "My name's Adam." And he'd say, "I'm running for town supervisor. Will you vote for me?" And I'd say, "Sure, I'll vote for you." And he'd say, "Thank you." And he'd hand me his card and he'd walk away. It was hysterical. So he made a little game out of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. Was there ever a point when you were at Irondequoit Town Supervisor that you were like, okay, I could go to the next level here?
Yeah. And actually, well, it's funny. I never actually looked for what the next level would be. Okay. And so maybe that's the way to answer that is that, so I guess no, because I always take the approach that you just do the best that you can in the job you're in. And then if an opportunities will present themselves, right? And so I never actually looked beyond being a town supervisor. What happened was the county clerk at the time was Cheryl Donalfo, and she had run for county executive. She won the county executive's race, and that created a vacancy in the county clerk. And it wasn't until that vacancy was created, and then of course the Democratic Party was looking for who could be the next county clerk, and it was only at that point that I really started thinking about that. Could I do something more? Could I be a county clerk? And then I also had to look at it from another aspect, so that it's not purely about ambition to see yourself go from a town-wide to a county-wide position, but could I make the position? Is it interesting, and could it still have an impact on the community, right? Because as a town supervisor, you could build baseball fields, which we did, soccer fields. You could do a community center. We built a library. We didn't do the community center. We did the library when I was there. So you could do things that are tangible like that. Yeah. County clerk primarily is the clerk of the court and runs the DMV. So can you have that same impact? Yeah. But at the time, we were dealing with a lot of zombie properties that were popping up in Irondequoit across the county. There was issues like that I thought, wait a minute, I think I can make an impact. If you utilize the data and the tools that you have in the clerk's office, you can make that same impact. I started getting excited about that, and I decided to pursue that.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. And so you talked about your internship and how that was during 9/11. Another very pivotal moment in history was when you took office as the county executive with COVID. So what was it like stepping into county leadership during that time?
Yeah, that was pretty tough. And but you know what? It was tough for everybody. The way I look at it is that everyone says, well, you were new to the job. How did you do that? And but you know what? Everybody was new to it because nobody's done the current job they were in during a pandemic. So everyone had to learn at the same time. It was difficult though. And I there's a few leadership lessons that came from this as well though, because I'll never forget the last time I traveled to Albany that year, because I do go to Albany every so often to advocate for resources, things like that. But anyways, I was in Albany. It was like the very end of February. And we were driving home, and it suddenly occurred to me, because we had made a few jokes around what would a lockdown look like? What would it look like if something happened in the United States? And I was like, okay, that's not really funny. We need a plan, and I don't know what to do. I was like, I've never done a pandemic before. I don't know anything about this. So I called a friend of mine, and she said, and I was talking through with her, and I said, what do you think I should do? And she gave me some really good advice. She goes, well, you should call the heads of the 2 hospital systems, and you should start just bringing people together. That's your job. And it was funny because I said, do you think they take my call? I was like, Adam, the county executive. It was only month 2, but she goes, of course they're going to take your call. So I figured out how to get their number. So anyways, I called the chief medical, or the head of URMC and the head of Rochester Regional, and I called, of course, my health commissioner. We got everybody on a call, and I called them from the thruway and said, look, at the end of the day, this is coming here. We know it's coming here. We should have a common strategy. We should be saying, we should all get on the same page about what we want to do in terms of reacting, responding, communicating, so that we're not confusing the public, but we speak with one voice. They all agreed immediately. We ended up with a cadence of meetings that we had. They were every day at one point at the same time, where everybody shared what was each hospital system doing, what was the county doing to respond. And we ended up building a really good relationship that comes into today. But the other thing, I want to tell you a quick story, if that's all right. So at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were still trying to figure out what is our role, like what do we try to do? The one thing I wanted to avoid was trying to play doctor on TV. I saw a little bit of that, I think, in Washington, and I didn't want to emulate that, certainly. So I wanted the doctors to be able to answer medical questions. And the county, my job was to answer, okay, what are we doing about it, right? So if another level of government, like the state government, started requiring masks for things, it's like, okay, I'm not requiring masks for things, but the state requires masks. Why don't we help people get access to masks then? So what are we going to do about that? So I wanted to be the response piece to it, the emergency response. But anyways, early on in the pandemic, when there was still a lot of fear, I'll never forget walking in Wegmans on the way home from the emergency ops center. I was getting groceries for my mom because I wouldn't let my mom and dad leave the house. And anyway, so I'm in one of the aisles, and everybody, if you remember back then, kept a pretty big distance. Nobody was talking to each other, but you can hear the music playing over the top. So anyways, a woman says to me, she goes, she's like, Mr. Bello, she said, it's nice to see you here or whatever. And I said, thank you. And she said, I saw you on TV. I said, okay. And she goes, look around. And so it was like a pin drop. So I'm looking around, and she goes, what are we going to do? And she started crying. And so she asked if she could hug me, and I said, sure. So I let her give me a little hug, and then she just walked away. And I was like, wow, we're not doing okay. Like, people need to hear from us. People need to know, what are we going to do? Her question literally was, what are we going to do? So I went back the next day and said to my team, we need to do more. We have to communicate. We have to tell people what's going on. We have to tell people what we're doing about it. And it set us off on a series of town hall meetings we were doing live on TV. We were doing a lot more communication, where I was bringing in the heads of the hospital systems. Mike Mendoza was our our health commissioner. I just started bringing people in, asking TV stations, can we go on and just talk and just answer questions? And we ended up doing a lot of that early on. So we ended up a lot of exposure on TV, but it also pushed you to just keep doing more and more and more and hearing from people by doing like town hall style communications. Yeah. So
that's wild, that you walked into it too.
Yeah, it was crazy. Because nobody had a roadmap for this. I mean, I always ask everybody, where's like the rule book, like the break glass here, open the case. Like there really isn't one for something like that. And it changed every day. You remember those days where it's just like the guidance that was coming out of, so it just seemed like it was different every day. And you had to figure out how do you, I always view my role as you got to be the calm through the chaos, I guess, a little bit. So you never want to be, you can't be a public official who says, I don't know what to do here. No. You got to find out what the facts are, bring around the professionals, because you have to know you don't know everything about everything. Yep. And then you just help put together a roadmap.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. Something that kind of was interesting that you just spoke about before that was that when you were the town supervisor, you could get tangible things done that the town's like, this is great, Adam. Thanks for bringing this. And you're like, it's good for your kids. It's good for the family. And then as you start to kind of get hired, they're a little less tangible and you have to figure out how to do it. Yeah. What are the main, would you say, for our audience? You just kind of told us town supervisor, county clerk, and now county executive. Yep. What technically, obviously, take away COVID, where you really had to be the head of the county, basically, and guide us through that. But now that that's kind of over with, what is the day-to-day responsibilities for Adam Bello? And
that's a really good question. So what we do is, it's sort of funny you said that, because coming out of COVID, we had to figure that out too, right? Because it was COVID. Yeah. So basically what I do is I look at my job as say, okay, I look at things in general as like buckets, right? Like I put things in buckets. And I look at my job as basically 4 like main priority areas. So it's public health, it's safety, it's economic and workforce issues, and then it's infrastructure and quality of life. So I put things into those four priorities, priority areas at work. They call them my pillars, but that's what they are. And so everything we do, we try to tie back to, does this impact the health of the community? Does it impact the safety or our ability to work here or help people get to work? And so those are my priorities every day. And everything we do is tied to one of those. We even went so far as not last year, but the year before, instead of doing a single state of the county address where you basically talk for an hour about everything you're doing, we broke it up into 4 speeches. And once a week or once every other week, maybe, I gave a different speech at a different place on one of those pillars, and just told everybody, this is what we're doing for your health and safety.
It's easier as a resident to digest it. Yeah, you split it out like that for us.
Yeah, because the county does a lot of stuff. I mean, this is something that also gets underappreciated sometimes, and that's why you do have to figure it out. And that's why I put things in those buckets, because there was a saying we used to talk about, like, county does everything from A to Z, airports to zoos, right? It's everything in between. So while most of our budget, 50% of our budget or so is human services. So we do a lot of programs on behalf of the state, like the Medicaid program, SNAP program, food assistance, temporary assistance, emergency housing. We do all of that. But then we also have our transportation department, our parks department, our airport. We do, the public health department, certainly economic development. So it really has its hands in a lot of different functions, because at the end of the day, what a county does is, counties are generally set up to be pass-through organizations. So when you see the state and federal government, and actually a lot of county executives used to complain about this. I don't complain about it as much, but they would always talk about state mandates, right? 90% of our budget is mandated. Yeah, that's true, because that's what we are. That's what counties were set up for, to do. So when you see the state government come up with a program where it says, we're going to spend $100 million on road infrastructure this year, what they're really saying is they're going to push down X millions of dollars to counties largely. They'll also do it to towns and cities, but largely to counties, and push that down. Or you have a new food program that they're going to roll out, or a healthcare program like Medicaid. It comes down to the counties. Federal government the same way. They put money aside for something. They announce they're doing money. A lot of that then flows to the county, and then the county has to figure out, how are we going to invest those dollars?
So you guys are executing the dollars.
That's exactly right.
Yep. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yep. It's a big organization. We spend, they say we invest $1.5 billion is our budget this year. So it's a lot of dollars that come through. Half of it, though, like I said, is in human services. There's a lot of people in need, and a lot of those dollars come from the state and federal government that we pay.
And then how do the towns and I guess the city of Rochester, how do they interact and work with you? I mean, there's a lot of towns in Monroe.
There is. We got 19 towns and villages. And so it's a good question. Actually, it's funny you just asked that because 2 weeks ago, I just had lunch with the Town Supervisor Association. They get together once a month. So I was their guest a couple weeks ago for February. We talked about the different initiatives that we're doing. We talked about roads and pedestrian safety. We talked about actually, we talked about the 250th birthday of America this year and some of the things we're going to do for that. But we talked about a range of issues. We talked about changes that are coming to the SNAP program, what they need to talk to their residents about. The city of Rochester and we've actually, one of the things I'm proud about is we really changed the relationship between the county and the city. It used to be under previous administrations, both in the city and the county, a pretty at times adversarial relationship. And then in the best of times, it was more just like you kind of work side by side, but never really together. And that was really unfortunate. The mayor and I are fortunate that we have a great relationship right now. Mayor Evans and I mean, we talk every day. I mean, we're on the phone or in meetings at least once a day with each other, and we have real collaboration. So whether it's coming like homeless support services, opioid supports, we had these grant dollars that came from the federal government that we had meetings on to talk about making sure that we were spending them in a complementary way. And we even went so far as when we go to Albany to lobby for dollars for us, we actually joined our lobbying portfolios together so that he wasn't going to lobby for dollars that might come out of dollars I'm lobbying for, and that we're all doing different things. We're actually there doing the same. And sometimes that means more county projects get funded than city one year, but the next year the city might get more than the county gets the next year. But it all is really to the same thing. Our residents, they don't care. Like if the convention center, for instance, which got some dollars last year to renovate the convention center, modernize it, our residents really don't care if the city runs the convention center or the county runs the convention. They just need a convention center, right? Yep. Right. So in my view, it works, and it has actually been working really well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So obviously, our audience knows I moved back from Manhattan 4 years ago, but grew up here. Okay. But getting used to how it works around here, and I'm on the chamber board.
Okay.
And the mayors came in and spoke to us, one of my first board meetings there. And pretty much after he left, everyone on the board who's been doing this for a lot longer than I have, 20, 30 years, all said it's the first time they can remember that the county exec and the mayor are rowing in the same direction, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
And, says, we had to make changes, and it sounds like we're in a great spot to move forward.
I got to tell you, and no other community is really like this. There's towns across the state. I'm not going to name them where the county exec and the mayor are at war with each other, right? Because you really are, you really can be competing for resources, or you're also competing for responsibility on things where you
want to be
right. Like you might want something that the other one has, or you might not want to do something and you don't think the other one's doing a good enough job, or so you can be at war with each other. You could just ignore each other, or you can try to collaborate. We're going with the collaboration route, and so far it's been working really well. Yeah. So no, I enjoy that, and it really is the first time I'd say since probably Lou Morin and Tom Ryan were running the show here that this has really existed like this, because largely there's some politics at play with that too, right? I mean, at the end of the day, for the last, 30 or 40, probably 30 years, 40 years maybe, Democrats have been winning the mayor's race in the city of Rochester. Republicans have largely been running the county government through the county executive's office until I got elected. So largely, I think you had a political dynamic where, you had a Democratic mayor and a Democratic, majority city. So we'll just let them run the city. The Republican county executive from a largely Republican suburban area, they'll just take care of the suburbs, and we'll just leave each other alone. That doesn't really work, especially when half of what you're doing in county government is probably focused in the city of Rochester. You can't just ignore it. And so that doesn't make sense. So I think that we completely changed the way this works. I think it's for the better.
Great.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. We're going to switch gears a little bit and go into kind of our second theme. One of the pillars that you talked about was public safety. And public safety is near and dear to Wilmac's heart. We work with a lot of 911 centers, especially in the northeastern United States and southeastern Canada, and we're hoping to expand that footprint. But can you speak a little bit more to why you named public safety as a core focus area?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you can't get safety and health right, you can't really do much of anything else, right? If people don't feel, if they're not safe, and also they don't feel safe, which is, important, then you can build whatever you want. You can invest whatever you want in your baseball stadiums and your arenas, but no one's going to go to them, right? You're never going to build your economy, and no one's going to feel comfortable opening a business here if they're not don't feel safe doing so. So you have to start with safety. And we did a number of initiatives, especially coming out of COVID related to that. We saw, if you remember a few years ago, the number of car thefts, break-ins. We even had smash and grabs at one point where young people would take a car and smash into a store. And we really had to figure out something to do with that. And so we did a couple things. One is we really wanted to focus on young people and what can we do to get young people out of the cycle of criminal behavior. And what I did was one of the things that the county runs is the Children's Detention Center, which is analogous to like jail, but for teenagers. Yeah. That's one of the things that we run. So what I did was I ended up interviewing in my office a few moms. It turned out to be moms of boys who were in our Children's Detention Center. And I asked them essentially what happened, like if they would share with me what was going on in their family dynamic and their life and their kid's life that led their son to do whatever their son did, that got into the Children's Detention Center. And was there something the system, I was always looking at system, is there something that the system or somebody outside here could have done that would have prevented that from happening? And over, I kept hearing the same thing, which was, and it was a couple of things. One is that families really are trying their best, but when their kids were busy, they'd stay out of trouble. Like the one mom was talking about, her son was in football. He'd go to football after school. He'd come home really hungry, really tired, eat, do his homework, and he went to sleep, stayed out of trouble. As soon as football season was ended, though, things started going different. Stuff like that. And so the other piece that I heard a lot was their child would get arrested for something, would be in a stolen car, stole a car, something like that. The police would bring them back to their home and just drop them off. And then there was like nothing. And okay, I couldn't stop him from stealing a car before. What makes you think I'm going to stop him from stealing a car again? Right. And so there was no intervention. And so we thought we'd try to stop the two things. So what we did is we created this thing called the JEDS program, which has been recognized on a national level. The U.S. Department of Justice recognized it. That basically what we do now is we utilize our probation department where a young person is arrested in the county. Instead of the police having to figure all of that out, what comes next, they can call probation. Probation then will take the young person and do a couple of things. We do an assessment. They go to the Children's Detention Center if that's what's necessary, or they can go into a diversion program. We take them home. We put them in a diversion program where they have a daily check-in for the first 4 weeks, where a probation officer checks in with them. We interview the family. We figure out what they need, like what services can they be connected to or programs they can be connected to keep that young person from reoffending. And throughout that program, we have brought the recidivism rate down from kids who are in that program to almost non-existent. It's like 1%, 2%, 3%. The successful completion for the diversion program is miles above where the statewide rate is for other diversion programs. It's having a lot of success. And we've seen a remarkable decrease in the number of car thefts and things like that in the county. So we think we did that. And the other reason why that made sense is because the county also has a youth bureau, and we fund a lot of programs. We fund a lot of programs that these young people could be benefiting from, but we weren't connecting them. Yeah. So we found also a way to connect them, and that's why it made sense for the county to do it.
That's great. Yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff.
Good stuff. We also hired a whole bunch of sheriff deputies, so some accountability into the system. Yeah. I think the number was 40 or 50 sheriff deputies a few years ago. We added to the road patrol, and we also just cut the ribbon a few months ago on a new center called the REOC, the Regional Investigation Operations Center, with the sheriff, which basically is a operations center that combines technology with the field work that's going on that allows the sheriff to be able to track crimes as they are committed, and multi-jurisdictional crimes that cross county borders. It can monitor drone activity. It can do body camera activity, and really puts technology all in one center to help them be able to respond to a lot of crimes in real time.
Well, that's great. A great segue. So we've been working with 911 centers for 20 to 30 years, but now the past 2 years, really, we launched it 4 months ago. We built our own AI solution, basically to help 911 centers staff better.
Okay.
It basically automates their schedule and workforce. So what we have found out, it actually came from Toronto Police, one of our customers. They don't have any automation, and they have people, supervisors, actually spending hours upon hours on Excel sheets when there is plenty of data to easily automate this. And the other interesting thing is this solution, I would say, without AI, we've built AI into it, but it exists in every single call-taking industry in the world, other than what I would say is the most important call-taking industry.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what we've been bringing to the table, and we're excited. And one of the things I've really seen is most of the time I've sold on the other side of the business, which is into financial firms. So I've been jumping into public safety and PSAPs for the past 4 to 5 months, and I just can't believe the difficult work these people have to do without a lot of technology helping them. At this point, it's starting to come, and we want to be a part of that. But it is such a difficult job, and there's a wellness to it. And that's why you see it's probably not staffed where it should be. Hiring is tough. Training a 911 agent is really, I didn't realize that sometimes they'll hire 4 and only 1 gets through.
It's incredibly difficult.
Like a year to get them. So we're trying to help optimize that, and we've been working with Mike Soretto to get a pilot in Monroe.
Oh,
so
good.
That's been great.
But he's been a great leader, by the way. He's a great leader at the 911 Center. You're absolutely correct in your assessment of it too. I've been over there a few times, toured it, talked to the staff, say hello. And the last time I was over there, I overheard a call. They gave me the earphone, and I watched a call. That was a very, very difficult call. I mean, when you're taking a call from somebody whose husband had just taken their life, and she comes home from grocery shopping to see it, that's tough. And so you're watching an incredible amount of professionalism on the phone. Because you're talking to callers who are having sometimes the worst moment of their life. But it also takes an incredible emotional toll on you as a call taker, right? And so when that operator finally hung up the phone, she went and took a break, and everybody told her, go take a break, because that was an awful call. And even I was left just sort of like stunned by what I was overhearing. That's just tough work. And so, when pay is what it is, and you're in a competitive work environment to begin with, and then you're asking people to do these calls like this over and over. It's a tough business. It can also be rewarding though, because you're also in a position. Yes, you're taking these really terrible calls, but you're also in a position to help a lot of people, to save a life, and we've given out commendations for that, where you get to hear some really incredible stories about people who've saved a life, these operators. So it could be a very rewarding field as well. And you're right, the training is difficult. We have an interesting training program that does utilize an AI tool that mimics calls. Cool. So you can mimic a voice that calls and can go through different emotions, that can go through different scenarios, and really put somebody through a training, which is interesting.
Yeah, and Monroe has a great reputation too for their PSAP across. We work with a ton of the counties across New York, and Monroe influences a lot of what type of vendors they work with, how they set up their systems, best practices. So it's great that Monroe is like that, and has a great center over there. And obviously Mike's great. Oh,
that's good of you to say. They work incredibly hard. I think they're some of the greatest people over there. And like I said, they go from one call to another. They're just so professional with it. And it's amazing what they know too, because and I'm always fascinated by that business. I'll just say, because
Yes.
I don't know, maybe I just drive around more than other people do. I'm on the road. I don't know why, but going from meetings or whatever, but I come across car accidents a lot. I just don't know what it is. And so we always pull over, and I've called 911 a fair number of times in the last several years. And it's wild how they know exactly where you are when you're calling. They'll ask where you are, but they know where you are. And if they're pinging off a tower or something, and they're very good and they're very fast. So,
and I think the technology is just getting better and better.
Oh, 100%.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Moving to the last topic, I know we're getting quick on time, but it's starting to become a topic near and dear to my heart, and it's kind of the economic development in Rochester, which we've been meeting all sorts of great people that are trying to do great things with it, including Mr. Duffy. Bob's been kind of
he's a great leader,
a leader with that. I know Micron is Syracuse, but it's part of the whole corridor.
Part of the tech hub.
Yep. Kind of how deep do you dive into helping out the GRE, the One Rock, Joe and Matt and Bob? I guess they all form a triangle there. How deep do you dive into that? And do you try to influence a vision of what the Rochester economy could look like? Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. And we participate in all three organizations that you just mentioned, Run Rock and the Chamber and GRE. I talk to Matt Hurlbut a lot at GRE because his job really, I mean, he's a repository, right? He knows of where all the land is, the condition, right? What assets are there and infrastructure, and businesses will typically reach out to him, right? That they're looking to, site selectors reach out, and then we get involved. Like we have our tax incentive packages through Comida. We have other things that we have access to. We have workforce training programs we have access to, so we do all that. But we get involved in a lot of different ways. I remember when Fairlife was looking to come to Rochester, and that's going to be one of the largest dairy processing plants in all of North America is here in Webster. A lot of people don't know that. But the CEO from Fairlife was in town. We had dinner, and we talked about Rochester, and I just talked about workforce. I talked about our colleges and universities. Quality of life issues here matter to them, and so I was involved in the pitch that was being made to get them here. And then we involve ourselves on the tax incentive side, if that's what's necessary, and also on the labor side, right? In terms of you got to build these things. And so I actually do spend a lot of time when the Amazon project was getting built, Fairlife, talking to the construction trades about, availability of tradesmen to be able to build these industries. The other thing that we do is through our Comida board is we invest a lot in workforce development programs to help link people, because in my view, you have to have the workforce in place too in order to support these industries if you're going to recruit them here. So we do through Comida board a number of investments in helping, again, build up the building trades and try to recruit new people into the apprentice programs. Healthcare is a big space that we invest in for CNA, LPN, RN training, things of that nature as well. But I'm very bullish on where we are in our economics. We've been just a couple of weeks ago just announced that Reju is coming to Rochester at Eastman Business Park. So we've been landing some pretty good projects here because we have a couple good things going for us. We do have a very highly educated workforce here. The University of Rochester, RIT, St. John Fisher, Nazareth. We have some of the best colleges and universities anywhere here. When it comes to the field of optics and photonics, MCC has one of the only, if not the only, a degree program in optics. We have one of the highest per capita optics degree earners in the country, are by per capita number of patents that come out of here. And this also speaks to our history with Kodak. My dad worked at Kodak. My grandpa was at Kodak. We're a Kodak family. And so that's just who we are. And so we are a very attractive place to come and do business.
Yeah, I agree. There's a ton of potential.
There's also challenges, right?
Yeah,
it's like any place else, but a lot of potential.
The workforce is interesting because we don't have any issue getting workers.
That's great.
With what we do.
That's great.
We see, how do we stop the outflow of U of R and RIT people going to Silicon Valley and Boston and New York? And how do we develop more companies like us who are more on the application layer end of AI? Meaning, I look at Micron as, they're the actual people building the hardware to put in a semiconductor. There's like 4 layers, and you have to be tens of billions of dollars in investment to get like a Micron, where a company like ours is more startup. Like a kid out of RIT could try to build something with that. So trying to figure out how to get that kind of going in Rochester, and a lot of it's education. That there's different levels of AI. I don't think the world quite understands all of it now and where it's going to be in the next few years. But to your point, between the ease of living here, the lifestyle here, the workforce, even outside of the college, there's grown-ups like myself who moved out that come back that are working remote for an Amazon, working remote for that could be part of a company growing here.
Yeah. Well, you make a really good point. So, and this is something that I don't have the numbers on right now, but I know from what these organizations are reporting to me is happening, is you do actually get a lot of remote workers here that choose to live in Rochester, because Rochester's a great place to live, right? 100%. You're right in the Finger Lakes. You got the Finger Lakes right here. You got Lake Ontario.
No traffic.
No traffic. You got great public schools if you have kids. Home prices have been going up, but are still relatively affordable. Not compared to Westchester County, you went out to San Francisco, right? And so it really is a good place to. So you are seeing a lot more remote workers that choose to live here, and you're seeing a lot of people choosing to live downtown too, which is interesting. Instead of purchasing a home, are living in the towers downtown. And I think over 10,000 people call just downtown alone home, and I think that number is expected to grow by quite a bit. So I think that's an interesting phenomenon, and hopefully what that does is it drives more growth of restaurants, other activities and stuff like that downtown as well.
With Clinton Crossing now, right?
Yeah, that's great.
So
and where else can you go? I mean, you got like the Rochester, you got the Red Wings here, the Amerks here. You got a great zoo that we're building a new project at the zoo. That's one of our quality of life infrastructure projects.
Very nice.
Doing a new exhibit there. So we have a lot going on here. That makes it a great place to live.
So to say the podcasts that we've recorded in this new year since January, like a common theme is often like, Rochester's like it's a great thing. Like we want to keep talking about it, and we're talking about it in the middle of winter. So that's something to say.
You know what's funny? My grandparents, like I said, my grandfather worked for Kodak. Well, I think it was about 20 years, starting like the mid to late 80s, they had to go out to California. So he got relocated to San Diego. So they live in San Diego. I visited there a few times, but they ended up moving back to Rochester after they retired. They wanted to be closer to their family. But I said to my grandma one time, like, do you really miss San Diego? Because, it's 70 degrees.
San Diego,
It's a high of 72 and a low of 68 every day, right? And it's partly cloudy. And she said, no, she loved Rochester. And because Rochester has seasons, every season basically gives you what it promises. And you have traditions here for every season, right? Winter, you can go sledding, you can go skiing, you could do whatever. In the summertime, you've got the Finger Lakes, you've got the lakes, you've got all that. In the fall, you've got apple picking, you got the pumpkins, like I said, the hay rides. It's like every season has something here, whereas, some places not so much. And so they loved it.
Awesome.
And I met a doctor a few years ago who relocated up here to URMC from North Carolina. And I said, that's interesting. I said, a lot of people relocate from here down to North Carolina. I said, so what brought you this direction? He said, your seasons. He actually loved winter because it was like skiing and stuff up here. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I don't know. I think you just have to, sometimes we're down on ourselves a little bit. Yeah. But if you think about it, you really shouldn't be bored in Rochester. You got the wineries down in the Finger Lakes too. Even craft beer. If you love craft beer, we have one of the highest per capita number of craft beer breweries in the country. It's all right here.
Yeah.
When we spoke to, I forgot her name. Hopefully you will know, the dean of the Saunders Business School.
Jackie Mosrell.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She talked about how they recruit from all over, obviously. Yeah. And she's like, a lot of people don't end up leaving when their contracts. Or they retire and they stay here because they like Rochester so much.
That's great.
Yeah.
And they don't have any issue recruiting people into Rochester.
That's great to hear. Even if you like to travel a little bit, not a bad place to be from, because even New York
Manhattan's
City
so close.
Is
all the airport.
An hour, airport. Or if you even if you want to drive to New York, what's it, 6 hours?
Oh yeah.
Toronto, a few hours the other way. So you're really situated in a place that's not bad. The Buffalo Bills are an hour and a half down the road. But honestly, I never really went there until a couple of years ago for my son's soccer trip. But Cleveland's only another hour and a half further. It's like really not that far. Pittsburgh, Philly, New York, Washington, D.C. You can drive down to. It's really not that bad.
I think we get a bad rap from some people, like we're out in the middle of nowhere, New York, when that's not the reality.
Not really.
Not at all.
And also, like you said, the traffic too. It's funny around here. If you can't get there in 15 minutes, it's like we complain. Right. Any place else you go, I don't know if you've been on vacation lately to any of those tourist traps, but everything is 45 minutes to an hour away. Right. So it's a little bit different.
My wife's from Long Island. And she'll sit in a car with my mom, and my mom will like complain about maybe a minute back up on an exit. And she's like, "What are you talking about? You don't know what you don't know what traffic."
No, it is pretty incredible. We love Rochester, and we like talking about it. So all right, Adam, before we wrap, I did have just kind of a high-level question to wrap things up with. But speaking to the future, reflecting on kind of your stint in leadership as that continues to grow and evolve, like what's one thing that you want people to remember about that sort of experience?
Oh, that's
deep question.
That is a deep question.
That's a reporter question.
Yeah, I know.
It's like that coming.
Well, it's about like... So listen, I will say this. There's advice that I give everybody when they're thinking about a leadership position, a career change, and they're thinking about all of this. A couple of things. Number one is that you really should just focus on doing the best that you can at the job that you're in, and opportunities will present themselves to you. But the other thing is that you have to take risks sometimes, and that's how you advance. I've done a lot of that in my career. Running for, when I went from being a town supervisor to county clerk, I could have been out of this game in this field a long time ago. That was a big risk. Running for county executive was a risk. But it worked out, and I just worked the best that I can. And it's also okay to not know everything about everything. I always look at my role as a county executive where you have to run everything from A to Z. I don't know anything about running a zoo, but I know how to find someone who does, right? I know how to ask questions. I know how to talk to them. It's never my decision of how you're going to take care of this animal, but I find the expert who does, and I make the decisions, based on that. So it's just, the takeaway should always be, it's okay to take a risk. And you should always, what I find is that people who are most successful in their field always step back to figure out how to know what they don't know. Does that make sense? You have to know what you don't know, and be able to ask for help, and you'll find success.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I asked you to take a step back and go deep on me for a second. But so do your best, take risks, and it's okay to not know everything. Great life lessons.
Fail forward.
Sure.
That's what I tell my kids all the time.
Fail forward. I like it.
You don't know unless you try.
Definitely. Steve, anything else to ask?
No, thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. This has been great. Sorry we went over.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great conversation. And Adam, before we close, are there any initiatives or programs at Monroe County that you want to share about with our listeners?
Oh, we have so many programs. It'll be hard to narrow it down. But stay tuned in the next couple months, where we're going to do our State of the County in a couple months. I'll have a number of new initiatives, but one of them that I'm really looking forward to is that I've been talking about. This is more on the fun side of things, right? Not on the health and safety side, but we are building a new first-class exhibit at the Seneca Park Zoo that I'm really excited to announce in a couple months. Bring the orangutans back, have some aquarium features, Komodo dragons, things like that. So you just got a little early look at what those animals will look like, but stay tuned. We have some really fun things coming in the next few months.
My girls will be excited. We have the membership or the annual whatever card it is, so we can keep going.
Well, just wait, because it's my kids were your age, your kids' age once too. We spent a lot of time at the zoo, and this will be a good experience because this new exhibit has an indoor sort of rainforest feel. So instead of feeling like maybe I don't want to go to the zoo in the winter, it's freezing, you'll have a great place to go in the winter.
Awesome.
Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. All right. Well, thanks, Adam, for joining us on the Wilmac Wire. For our listeners, if you want to stay informed about Monroe County initiatives and follow Adam's work, you can head to the Monroe County website at monroecounty.gov or check in with Adam on Facebook and Twitter or X. Monroe County Executive Adam J. Bello on Facebook and at County Exec Bello on Twitter. Adam, thanks for joining us on the Wilmac Wire. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you for listening to the Wilmac Wire. If you like today's conversation, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or watch full episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also learn more about Wilmac Technologies and our work in customer interaction technology at wilmactech.com. We'll be back soon with more conversations with the drivers, those shaping our industry and those building right here in Western New York. See you next time.